Before you start scrolling Zillow, before you fall in love with the backyard, and before you fall in love with that kitchen, there are a few things you need to understand. Buying a home in 2026 is not impossible, but if you go into the process without being prepared, it can cost you time, it can cost you money, and it can possibly cost you the house that you want. I'm going to break down how to prepare you to buy in 2026, the biggest mistakes I see borrowers make, and what we can do to put you in position to win in 2026. Things you want to avoid when you're buying a house is that you don't want to start with the house first. You want to actually start with the numbers. Many borrowers make this mistake over and over again. They're trying to see houses on Zillow, see houses on Redfin, see houses in all these markets. Hey, I want to know. They want to go to open houses, and they're just looking. And the biggest key to all this, they don't know what their numbers are. That's a mistake because you can fall in love with a house that you can't afford, and you can really get disappointed. And what happens to a lot of buyers is called buyer's fatigue. They're looking, but they don't have an actual strategy. They don't have actual numbers, and they don't even know what they can afford and what they should be looking at. And a lot of times they get stuck in this cycle of doing this without getting a pre-approval. And then when they finally go and get the pre-approval, they can't afford the home. We don't want to do this. We don't want to start backwards. The first thing we want to do is to avoid not getting our numbers up front. So the best way to do this is once you feel like, hey, I want to buy a home, I want to start talking to somebody, I'm interested, you want to find a loan officer. Preferably if you're in the Connecticut and Florida area, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to help you out. But you want to start here first. You want to start with us, a loan officer, and you want to make sure that you interview your loan officer and ask these questions if they're qualified. Are they really qualified to help you for what you want to do? And do they have programs that support you and your family's needs to put you in the best position possible to own a home? So this is step number one. Know your numbers. Now, once you get that pre-approval, the seller knows you're serious. Now you can begin your search because now we know exactly what your purchasing power is. And this is going to give you all the leverage in the world to go out there and start winning deals. The number three thing to avoid, interest rates. We have a culture now that are so gun-ho on interest rates that it don't matter if you're giving them the lowest cost loan or you're not charging them a bunch of fees. They want to see a low interest rate. And that can be actually a pitfall because a lot of times people lure you in with these low interest rates, but they're not telling you the true cost of those interest rates. A lot of the low interest rates actually cost money to get those low interest rates, especially in the current market like we're in right now, where the medium rate is right now. I mean, the average rate now is about a 6.5. Rates cost. And you want to get into the 3s and 4s because now you're going back to COVID area where you're like, everybody has these low rates, but it doesn't work like that, right? We follow the market. The rates are important. Yes, it is. It helps you get the lower payment, so forth and so on. But it's important to know the fees of your loan. It's important to know the cost of your loan for the fees that the lender that you work with is going to charge you. But the number one thing we really want to understand with these loans is, can you afford this payment for the life of the loan? That's the most important thing. Rates go up and down. We're going to see those cycles throughout the life of your loan. If you plan on keeping it 30 years or whatever you plan on, however long you plan on keeping the loan, we're going to see those cycles. So you're going to have other opportunities to go out there and get lower rates. If you pay for a lower rate and it costs you thousands and thousands of dollars and you refinance a year or two later when those rates go low, you might not be able to recover the money you spent on that rate that you wanted that was low at the time. And it might cost you thousands of dollars to actually get out of that and get into a new lower rate, which now you're going to accumulate more fees and you just paid for nothing. So let's just get together. Let's speak about it and make sure when you're speaking to your loan officer, they're giving you options. We're obligated to give you loan cost estimates, to go to 3, 4, 5 different loan scenarios with 3, 4, 5 different interest rates to show you what the cost of those rates are, to show you what the cost of that closing cost is going to be and what that mortgage payment is going to be also. So ask these questions, take your time, do your due diligence. It will work for you down the road. Don't get locked in on an interest rate. Get locked in on a good loan and get locked in on something you and your family can afford. Number 4, you should budget around your payment, not your pre-approval amount. The reason we say do this is because a lot of people max their pre-approval out. But there's a couple things that loan officers and realtors don't tell you, and our industry do a bad job doing. After that first year, those taxes are going to go up. You're going to get the new house. You're going to get the new house tax after that first year. So it's going to go up. And if you max your budget out and that tax go high and something happens with your insurance, which here in the South, here in Florida, a lot of companies are dropping individuals left and right. So now you got to shop for new insurance. If you don't have the best conditioned home, if you need to change the roof or anything, you could be priced out of that home and be struggling to make payments each month. So what we want to do, we want to focus on what your real payment is. What can you actually afford? What is comfortable for you? You might be able to get it pre-approved for $700,000-$800,000. There's nothing wrong with that. But can you actually afford that estimated payment that they're showing you on that loan cost estimate? Can you make that payment? Can you make that payment comfortably, even if it was to go up another 4 or 5% the following year? We gotta consider all these things, because it's important for you and your family to understand that buying below your budget, buying below the pre-approval amount, and not being forced by your loan officer or realtor is very important, because we want to make sure you're staying in the home. And these are some of the pitfalls that a lot of borrowers go through because they feel rushed, they feel obligated, they've been told there's nothing else they can afford on the market, where a lot of times that is not true. It might take longer sometime. You just have to keep looking. Make sure you're dealing with the right professionals when you're dealing with these pitfalls and avoiding this mistake, because this mistake can be a costly one. Number 5, do not go out there making these big major financial moves. It's going to hurt your pre-approval. It's going to hurt your loan. You might not be able to purchase later. When you're going out there and you're in the process of buying a home, ladies and gentlemen, just slow down a little bit. You don't need a new car right away. You don't need new furniture right away. You don't need to do another credit card to buy that furniture. You don't need to be moving money around without speaking to your loan officer beforehand. And you do not need to be changing jobs in the middle of this process. Either you do all this before the process, or you do everything after the process. You don't do these things during the process. And if I was you, I will avoid everything and do it after the process. And especially if you're going to be changing jobs. If you're going to change jobs, do it before you start. If you're going to do the other things, do it after you bought your home and you settled in and you have everything. You don't want to increase your expenses before you purchase a home. You don't want to especially do it during the process, because that pre-approval can go from approved to now you're not able to be approved because you bought new furniture. We got to count that new debt that's on there now. We got to count those payments, that new credit card. We got to count those estimated payments that's going to come in. You change job, you move money. We got to paper trail everything to make sure you still qualify for this loan. So be cautious. Ask these questions when you're sitting down. Your loan officer should be telling you this. Your realtor should be telling you this. And just so you know, you should get a checklist so you know things not to do when you're trying to buy a home. No major financial moves. Get into the home, get settled, and you have more than enough time to do these moves after. Things to avoid. Number 6, save for more than a down payment. I know realtors, loan officers, people in our industry, they run up to you. Hey, we got down payment assistance program. Hey, we got down payment. You only got to come in with closing costs. You only got to come in with closing costs. But you're focusing on these estimated numbers, but there's a lot of costs that are out there that you have to pay for. And some of them are before the loan. You're going to have to pay for appraisal. You're going to have to pay for home inspections also. Those are costs that's going to cost you about $1,000 to do just those 2 alone up front before you even close on the loan. So when you're thinking about buying a home and you're going through this process, you need to be thinking about what's the max amount of money I can save. So if somebody say, hey, we just need to save $10,000, $15,000, you need to be thinking more of $20,000, $25,000 just to be safe. You don't want to be maxed out on day one when you close on the home and now you don't have any money, you're starting from zero. You want to make sure you're comfortable. Part of this process of buying a home and building generational wealth is to do it smart, not to max yourself out, be stressed over it, and then not be able to afford the home down the road. And then 1, you sell too early before you can get any real benefit out of it. And 2, you financially ruin yourself by going into foreclosure. We don't want to do that. You want to be comfortable. You want to get something comfortable for you and your family, and you want to make sure you have more than enough money to get into this process. Now, I know sometimes it doesn't work like this every time in the best case scenario, but if you can avoid it, make sure you have more than enough money to close. Don't rely on loan officers to give you credits. Don't rely on realtors to give you credits. Don't rely on down payment assistance, and don't rely on the seller to give you credits. Come into it with your money and make sure everything else you get out of everything I just said about the credits, it's a bonus. Because if you get all those credits, plus you have the money that you saved up to come into the deal with, it makes the situation even better for you and your family, and everything else is just bonus money for you to have. So pay attention what you're doing. Make sure you're saving enough, more than what they're actually telling you, and you should have a nice smooth transition to move into your home, to be able to do the things you want to do to make it better for you and your family to live. Avoidance number 7, not understanding your loan options. We have a bunch of loan options for borrowers, right? We can help many different borrowers with the loan options. And the first thing you want to do is when you get that pre-approval and you speak to your loan officer, make sure you're asking them about all these loan options. We have FHA, we have VA, we have conventional, we have USDA, we have a DSCR option, we have bank statements, profit and loss. We have a bunch of different options to fit you and your family, and we want to make sure you're getting the best option for you and your family and saving you the most amount of money that we can possibly save you. And that's going over your loan options, seeing what's best for you and your family. This is a good time to ask questions. Have them understand your wants and your needs, and let them fit you into a program that fits your wants and your needs. Too many times borrowers come out with these programs because they heard their friend has it, or their grandmother or their mother or father had it 20, 30 years ago, and that option might not be the same. You might be able to get a better option for yourself. It's not a one size fits all in the mortgage industry. There are programs out there that can fit you better than others, and that can do right by you better than others and save you money and be able to fit what you're looking to do. So make sure you're asking these questions, make sure you have a notepad, and make sure you know your options. Number 8, do not skip your inspection and your due diligence periods. These are extremely important to make sure that you're getting these reports completed and that you're actually reviewing the reports the right way to make sure the house you're moving into is not going to fall apart on you later. And I know it's up to the lender and the realtor to look at it and the lender to look at it and all these things, but you gotta know what you're looking at. You gotta ask questions to the inspector, to the appraiser if you can, and know what's going on with the property. Getting pre-approved is one part of the process. Buying the right house is another part of the process. You need to understand the condition of the property, the HVAC, the plumbing, the roof, the foundation, the HOA rules, the zoning. You need to understand all of this when you buy a home. Ask these questions. Save this video. Come back to this video. These are questions you need to ask. I have a home buyer's guide on applywithmrbenton.com, and it has a cheat sheet for you to go to, and you can just scratch off and mark off everything that you need to ask in all these questions, because it's important that you know these things. Due diligence is highly, highly important. I hear a lot of customers come to me and they have just nightmare deals where they didn't do the right due diligence. They had somebody else pick their inspectors. I personally will say, if you can find your own inspector, if you don't have a realtor or loan officer you trust who works with them, you can also pick your own inspector. So you can actually go find somebody to do your 4-point, somebody to do your wind mitigation, somebody to do a full inspection on that property to make sure you know everything that's going on inside that property. Make sure that foundation, everything is good for you and your family, because once that property closed, you are the sole responsible party for getting things fixed and making sure that property is in good shape. So it's not about us, it's about you. Do not skip your due diligence period, your inspection period, because this is going to be important for the life of that house to make sure you're buying a house it's not going to fall apart when you close. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Email me. Go to applywithmrbenton.com and I can get you more information on this, because this story happens more than what you think, and it's just because they're not asking the right questions. They're not doing their own due diligence as a buyer, because you have to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on, because a lot of people are just trying to get a commission check. But we want to make sure that you're in a good situation so you can be comfortable and you can be safe. Number 9, this is highly important. Listen, this is something in this market right now, especially in this Florida market right now for 2026, if you're buying a home, because it's probably going to be the same market for the rest of this year, is making sure you have a strategy before you make an offer on the property. This is important. Have a strategy. This is where your team of loan officer and realtor come into play. Everybody's communicating on the same page, making sure that you have a strategy put in place. Because in this market, you need a plan. How much are you willing to offer for that property? How much seller credit do you need, if anything? Are you asking for closing cost help? Do you need these things? Is the home price right? Is at Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, is this home price right? Show me the comps in the area before we even talk about if we're going to go low, if we're going to go high. Let's see what the current price of the home is right now compared to what it's actually worth in the market, and let's see if this price right, and that's getting a CMA done with your realtor who can assist you with that. And what happens if the appraisal comes in low? This is something that's been happening a lot in our Florida market. The appraisals come in low. What do you do when appraisals come in low? This is a strategy that you need to work with your realtor and your loan officer, because there's ways to get around it. There's ways to mitigate it. There's ways to make it work for you also. So you do not want to figure this out after you submit the offer, because if you do this after you submit the offer, now your due diligence periods, now you're in a situation where you can lose that escrow deposit and it'll put that money at risk, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to put no money at risk. You want to know as much as possible before you put that offer in. And this is one of the things we do, is coming up with a strategy so you're comfortable enough to put the offer in and understand everything that's going on. Number 10, the final one, prepare early, even if you're 6 to 12 months out. I truly wholeheartedly believe every time you think about buying a home, you should start preparing, getting pre-qualified, and seeing what the market's doing, seeing what your numbers are, and preparing to purchase this home. I don't think the majority of the people don't have the capacity to wake up one day, go to a homebuyer seminar, and say, let's buy a home next month. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just true. I've seen this over the years, and I've seen horror stories, disasters, because they're not properly ready. The credit is not good, the income is not good, and the actual assets and cash to close, they don't have it. So what do? We prepare. We put these things together. Hey, I think I want to buy this year. One, you're going to speak to your tax professional to make sure that your taxes are done properly. 2, you want to get pre-approved. You want to make sure you have all your documentations. You want Mr. Benton, myself, to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, this is where you're at right now. We need to fix this credit. We need to get the credit higher. You don't qualify, or you do. Hey, if you're not going to buy right now, then guess what? We got 4 or 5 months to get this credit to where we need it to make sure your purchasing power gets better by a higher score to get you a lower interest rate. And now we can get that approval up a little more so you can afford in the actual areas that you want to live. Well, hey, we need more assets. You got savings, you got 401k, you have tax returns coming in, you have a big gift or something coming down the road, a bonus. These things we can plan ahead of time to make sure we make this process as smooth and easy as possible. You don't want to rush these things. This is a big purchase that you're doing right now, and a lot of people rush through these purchases and they have horror stories. Buying a home is not easy, but it's not as bad as people make it when you are prepared to purchase a home. So what do? We take the 1 through 9 that we just spoke about, we add it with 10, and we take our time and go through it. I'm available. applywithmrbenton.com. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Even if you're not in my market, I can connect you with somebody if I'm not going to be licensed in your market anytime soon, so I can make sure you're getting help by a licensed professional that's doing their due diligence to make sure you and your family are avoiding all of these pitfalls. So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart for taking the time and just listening to what I got to say about buying in 2026. Buying a home is one of the greatest things you can do for you and your family. I know a lot of people not on social media saying it's not, but it is, because you can build assets. You can build generational wealth. It's not a cliche, ladies and gentlemen. You can actually build wealth every time you make that mortgage payment, every time the market shifts for the positive. You could be building wealth when you're staying in those homes, and if you decide to move, that home can become an asset and bring you cash flow also. So before you buy a home in 2026, remember this: do not shop for a house, prepare for home ownership. Know your numbers, protect your credit, save for the full cost, and understand your loan options, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. So best of luck. I'm looking forward to pre-qualifying you soon.